We've just got to make sure that we are always keeping in view, if we're doing this to give ourselves fulfillment or time or family legacy, whether, that's wealth or work ethic or the other things that come out of that, we don't lose ourselves in the process by not being wise in how we're leading ourselves. And if we're not caring for ourselves, then we can't show up to be the best version of ourselves for our business or our family or the people that are close to us. This is the Main Street Reimagined podcast, a show for people ready to turn visions into realities and ideas into businesses. Hey, I'm Luke Henry, and each week I lead conversations with Main Street dreamers who took the leap to launch a business, renovate a building, or start a movement. Their ideas, their mindsets, and their inspirations, as well as some of the highs and lows along the way. This is a place for dreamers, creators, developers, and entrepreneurs to learn, share, and be inspired to change your community through small business. Enjoy the show. Hey friends, Luke Henry here. This is the Main Street Reimagined podcast. Thanks so much for being here again. This is episode 42, and this is going to be another solo episode. I decide to do these solo episodes just based on when I start to hear different themes and in discussions that I'm having with different people. And I've lately been hearing a theme, and I thought it was an opportunity to come on and have some conversation about it, hopefully help someone who's out there listening. So as you know, this is a show for dreamers, creators, entrepreneurs, and some of these people are types that can easily put work and others in front of their own selves, their own self-care. And so this episode is going to be all about self-leadership and self-care. Let me start with a story. Recently, I had a conversation with someone who had just shared that they felt like they were not completely present. They were having trouble focusing while they were at work, trouble focusing while they were at home, just a lot of brain fog and frustration and just not in a really great place physically, emotionally. And I think this is just a story that happens all too commonly. And frankly, entrepreneurs and hard-driving folks are just not real great at taking care of themselves. And so I want to talk through, really, this is my own journey. I've been on a real journey of kind of looking at my own habits, my own self-care, my own time allocation and presence in different situations, and have been really trying to make some improvements on these areas of physical health, mental health, spiritual and emotional health. And I just want to share some things that I've learned along the way from really being a student of this, listening to many hours of podcasts and audiobooks and reading books and articles and papers and working with coaches and really trying to level up how I'm able to show up for my family, for my businesses, and hopefully this will help some others today. So with that, I want to dive in, and I want to start with a kind of word picture analogy that I had a friend share with me recently, and that is that of a rain barrel. So if you're familiar with the concept of a rain barrel, it's catching rainwater. So there's like a gutter that pours water in from the top, and then there's the barrel, which serves as the reservoir, and then there's an outlet that's usually a valve that you turn on if you want to water your flowers, your garden, or whatever with that rain that's collected in the rain barrel. And so often, those of us in life are we're the reservoir, and the water that's coming in from the downspout and gutter, those are life's events, and we can't control the rain. And when the reservoir gets filled up and we overflow, that's often an unproductive situation. And just like a rain barrel, you don't want it overflowing because then it's eroding maybe the landscaping or the lawn or whatever is around that barrel. And that's unproductive when it overflows, and it overflows onto other people and situations that you don't want it to. And likewise, we can sometimes overflow on people and situations in ways that we don't want to and aren't productive. So the only way, if we can't control the rain, if we can't control what happens in life, we have to control the outlet. And so we've got to be able to find ways to empty our barrel. And some of what we're going to talk about today is hopefully the specific practices that can help us empty our barrel and make sure that we're showing up with enough capacity to take on what life or business or relationships throw us, so that we're not overflowing in a really unproductive way on people and in situations that we don't want to. So I thought that was a really effective when he shared that. I'm like, man, yeah, I'm trying to control the rain and I'm getting frustrated when it rains, but the reality is it's going to rain. And especially here we are in Ohio in the spring, and especially here, spring of 2025, we've been getting a lot of rain. And so we can't control it. It's going to come when it's going to come. And that's the way that life and business works as well. So if the only way that we can control it is to control how we're letting the water out of our barrel, then that's got to be our focus in moving forward and growing and getting better. So I jotted down a handful of different thoughts and areas where I've really tried to make improvements that I feel like allow me to show up with the barrel in a place where I have the capacity to handle what life and business throws my way. So we're going to run through these. So first of all, these are in no particular order. I didn't rank these necessarily, and it's going to be different for different people in different seasons. So hopefully one or more, maybe all of these resonate with you. But first is kind of what I'll call tribe or community. So the people who energize you, build into you, and also allow you to build into them. And this could be a local group, this could be a friend group, this could be a peer group, or some sort of other network or intimate group that you're spending time with. And, you know, I've been involved in some different peer groups, some mastermind groups, some business groups that have really allowed me an opportunity to be with people who, you know, resonate on my level. We're dealing with similar problems. We're trying to juggle similar demands, and particularly in entrepreneurship, it is challenging, and you're hitting a lot of challenges and trying to balance a lot of things. You're trying to grow and move yourself and your business forward. And not everyone in your life is going to always understand that. And so being able to be in rooms and be part of groups where you're all working towards similar goals like that is really important. So I encourage you, find a tribe or community. If you're looking around and you're trying to do this alone, and you don't have that supportive tribe and community, maybe you've got your family, that's super important, but I'm talking about another outside group. Maybe it's through your church or faith community. Again, maybe it's through a peer group, something industry related, or maybe it's a specific entrepreneur or small business owner group. And if you don't have it, you can create your own. There's nothing really special about like a mastermind. Some of them you pay for, and I've been involved in those groups, and they're really, really positive, and they've had a really positive effect on my life because it's a way that I can level up and I can make sure that I'm showing up around people that are smarter than me, more experienced than me in certain areas in particular. I can learn from them. Hopefully I can add value to their lives. And more than anything, that just often the biggest part of it is just the community, knowing that you're not alone and dealing with the challenges that you are, and having people who are willing to share their experiences and you can share your experiences with them is really, really valuable. So I encourage you to find that tribe or community. Second thing that's important as part of self-care is sleep. This is a really keystone habit. A keystone habit is something that you change that one thing, and so many other things down the line fall into place in a really positive way. And sleep is one of those things. And everybody thinks they're maybe getting enough sleep. Oftentimes they do, or some even think like, I don't need sleep. I'm kind of superhuman, and I certainly spent a lot of years of my life being that way and kind of resisting sleep and always wanting to be on the go, always doing something. And frankly, with a little bit of advancing age, that's catching up to me a little bit. And this is something that I have really made a priority over the last few years, and have created some habits, some routines, some non-negotiables with this that have really helped. And you can go down some real rabbit holes. I've read a lot of books and different listen to podcasts and different experts around sleep. I worked with a coach, honestly, that our primary reason of working together was around sleep. And that's when I really began to see a change. So a couple of things I'll share here. I mean, you can really, if you're familiar with the term biohacking, sleep is one of those areas where a lot of people try to biohack just to really optimize not just the quantity, but also the quality. And part of that starts with tracking your sleep, really knowing how much sleep you're truly getting and what the quality of that sleep is in terms of the different stages: REM sleep, non-REM sleep, deep sleep. And so the way that I've chosen to do that over the last few years is with a Aura ring. So some people, if you're watching on YouTube, I'll show, this is the ring that not my wedding ring, but my other ring that I wear. And I've worn it for at least 3 years. Is actually my second one. I lost one of them in a water park. So you got to be careful about that. But I wear it 24 hours a day. I wear it overnight, and that's what tracks my sleep. There's other wearable technology around sleep that'll allow you to get really good tracking information, but it's like Bluetooth. So every morning I can check the app on my phone. I can see what my sleep quality was. And it's really fascinating once you start to do that. You see the things that impact your sleep for better or for worse, and you start to see the trends of when, some things that maybe you don't realize that really affect your sleep, such as eating too close to bed, alcohol, caffeine, activity in the evening, stress, being on screens. And when you start to see how those things impact, and you can kind of test with yourself, how is your sleep when you do this activity, when you don't do this activity, and how that you can get a real-time feedback like the next day based on your sleep. And sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes I feel like I didn't get that great of sleep, and my report shows that it was actually better than what I thought, and sometimes vice versa. So it's really interesting to get that objective data and be able to track it and really see, how am I doing? Am I getting as much sleep as I even think I am? Am I getting, you've heard 7 to 9 hours probably is what most people need. And there's exceptions, but it's not very high percentage of people that can go on less than, especially 6 or 7 hours of sleep. And I found 7 is really like the sweet spot for me. And so that's what I strive for. If you've never heard of the 3-2-1 rule, that's been super helpful. So the 3-2-1 rule is, I'm not saying that I'm perfect at any of these things, but they're things I've learned that have really informed the way that I try to live and try to prepare for good sleep. And that is the 3-2-1 rule is no food or alcohol within 3 hours of bed. 2 hours before bed, no work. So no really, stressful tasks or conversations or deep thinking about stressful topics. And then 1 hour before bed, no screens. And so the reason for that is just the blue light can really mess up your sleep, and it kind of sends the wrong messages to your brain that you need to be alert and awake, and then you go and try to fall asleep and you can't, or you fall asleep but it's not quality sleep because your body hasn't went through all of the neurochemical releases and secretions that need to happen in order for you to have good, deep, meaningful sleep. And so again, if you have wearable technologies that you're able to track these things, you're able to see this data in real time and see how it affects you. So a few other sleep tips that I've learned along the way that have made a meaningful difference for me. One is to make sure your room is dark, like really dark. And, some people think their room is dark, but they have clocks and different things that are throwing off, green or red or blue lights that are lighting up the room, or they're keeping a door cracked, and it's not really, really dark. And believe it or not, even with your eyes closed, your body can see those lights and kind of recognize that it's not totally dark, and it can send mixed signals and allow you to not get as deep a sleep as what you want. The other thing is making sure the room is cold. The last 2 nights I've gotten really good sleep, and part of it is because it's been really cold outside, and so our house has been cold, and so I have slept a lot better. So for me, that perfect place is like 64 to 66 degrees, which is easier to come by in cold weather. A little bit harder for trying to get the air conditioning down that cold, but that's pretty typical. They'd say 64 to 68 degrees is probably ideal. Just to work with the way that your body temperatures kind of reset and change overnight to be able to have that cold weather or cold environment, cold room to be able to sleep in is really, really beneficial in getting high quality sleep. Those are a couple of big ones. Supplements, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, I can talk with you about that. I certainly don't want to give anything that's construed as medical advice, although I did used to be a pharmacist. But I don't want to give medical advice here. But if you're really interested, reach out to me. I can share a few things that I found that work really well for me. I will say it's not melatonin. There is, for whatever reason, a lot of folks that kind of turn to that, and the doses that people take of melatonin are like just super high compared to the amount of melatonin that your body actually secretes, and it can throw off. It is a hormone, and so it can throw off some things. And so I do not recommend taking melatonin, unless there's some reason, maybe a doctor's prescribed, or you have a very specific reason. But a lot of people recommend that without knowing kind of the whole picture, and there's much better things that are foundational for good sleep and health, and melatonin is not on that list. So moving on, next one is movement. So this has made such a difference for me, and not just moving for the sake of moving, but a few different things I'll share. So I started running kind of later in life, and since have done some half marathons, did a full marathon last year, and done lots of 5Ks, 10Ks, just ran for enjoyment and my own betterment. But this didn't come along till like 8 or 10 years ago. So I was well into my 30s, and never ran in high school or college or anything. But I have found it to be so good. Not just for my physical health and cardiovascular health, but also for just mental health. And I have had some of my best breakthroughs when I'm out on the road and just going and being able to allow my mind to wander and have clarity of thought and have some endorphins pumping and clear-mindedness. It's just amazing how I can ideate when I'm moving my body, particularly running. I'll say also, relationally, I think that walking or running with people has been a real breakthrough for me. So my wife and I Lindsay, we love to take walks, and we have a lot of really breakthrough conversations, relationally, business, parenting, all of different topics that we talk about while we're walking. We just have such better clarity in the fresh air, and again with endorphins and just good blood flow and everything. It's amazing how that happens. And I've had some running partners and people that I've spent time with doing movement, doing walks, hikes, runs, and it's just amazing the way that conversations flow. So I highly recommend that. And then also in terms of movement and just my health journey has also included resistance training, doing some sort of strength training, weight training. We all know we should do it, but actually putting habits in place and leading yourself well in order to be able to have that health, vitality, strength. For me, it's not, as much about aesthetics as it is just being healthy and being healthy for the future, and making sure they've got muscle to rely on as I advance in age, and our muscle goes away over time. And it's amazing after the age of 50, 60, 70, just the attrition of muscle that happens. And so trying to build it while we're younger and can have the benefits of that as we age is remarkable. So movement is so important as part of self-care, and does take some self-leadership to walk the walk. And they say that health is one of those things that it can't be bought. We can't rely on someone else. There's a lot of things as business owners we can delegate, we can farm out, we can hire out, but our health is not one of them. And yes, we can get coaches, we can get trainers, we could get those other people to support us, but at the end of the day, we've got to do the work, and we've got to show up, and it's up to us how we are stacking our schedules and our habits, and so making sure that we're showing up in that way is really, really important. So the fourth thing is our mental and emotional growth. So this is, again, something that I've spent a lot of time on the last several years, and I feel like I've seen the fruits of the investment of time that I've put in with listening to podcasts that make me better, listening to audiobooks, reading. I think I've maybe shared this quote before on here that in 5 years, you'll be the same person you are today, except for the people you meet and the books you read. And that was a transformational quote that I heard 12 or 15 years ago that totally changed my mindset about building relationships and reading and getting better. And also, I've taken that to the next level the last few years with working with some different coaches around some self-awareness on my part, working on my parenting and how I'm showing up in my marriage and other relationships as a leader, and having outside perspectives. People help me see things about myself and how I'm leading and being is really important and has been really, really helpful to me. So I absolutely encourage that. If you have an opportunity to work with someone to make yourself better in those areas, I know that it's going to be it's some of the hardest work that I've done, kind of some of the therapy and coaching and self-reflection, but it's also been some of the most meaningful. So highly encourage, and something that has made a big difference for me. So if you are listening out there and you realize that you could use some more self-awareness, some accountability, some help in how you are handling yourself and your leadership and your relationships, I encourage you to make that investment. So far we've covered tribe and community, sleep, movement, mental and emotional growth. Next I have food. And this is a tough one. We are Americans. We love our food, and I am one of you that am the same way. and you're really trying to have the mindset of food is fuel. What I eat, what I put in my body changes how I feel. It changes my mood. It changes my energy. And I've got to be thoughtful about doing that. So similar to the way that I track sleep, there's been periods of time, and it's not something I do all the time, but certainly periods of time that I'll go through and track what I'm eating and drinking through an app, and really seeing the amount of macros and calories and all of that I'm putting in is really telling and really impactful to see that in a clear and objective way, and not just like, oh yeah, I eat pretty well, or yeah, I think I probably taking about the right amount of calories. When you start actually tracking everything that you eat, a handful of this, a handful of that, a little mini something, or a meal and things in between meals, and it is humbling sometimes to realize the way that we don't have control around that. And I'll say that I've been one that could be prone to stress eating, and even when that stress eating, like not so unhealthy things, it's still not very healthy, and is something that I think that we've got to be careful of. So I've had some friends that subscribe to a theory of like an 80-20 or 90-10 rule, where 80 or 90% of meals are like clean, whole food focused, single source, like actually being very thoughtful about what those foods are, and preparing it at, yourself or at home or whatever, being really thoughtful if you are eating out, how the is prepared, and, without a lot of fried things or breaded things or whatever. And then, maybe 10 or 20%. So that's like a meal or two a week, are a little looser. Again, we can't go hog wild, but to do that consistently really, really can move the needle and make a difference. And I love that, because, having that 10 or 20% of the time where, you can enjoy a meal with friends without guilt, because that you're doing a lot of things right and you're being really thoughtful and intentional, is a really great place to be. And it makes the overall plan much more sustainable. Like, I've never done a diet per se, but just being thoughtful and intentional about food, tracking it, and just eating for health and eating for energy and all of that is really, really meaningful and can be a game changer. And again, speaking from experience, I know it has been for me. Next thing related is caffeine and alcohol. So this is a tough one, and I'm not condemning anyone at all. These are things that are easy to use, pleasurable, but certainly are prone to overuse. And, I think caffeine in particular is one where in our society, like, it's really not frowned upon, but it can be abused, really, if we think about it, the amount of caffeinated things that we drink. And I mean, I've been so guilty of this at many times, can just cause us, what I think that has been easy for me to forget is that, again, these are central nervous stimulants. They affect the way that we think and respond and react. And if we're not being thoughtful about it, it affects the way that we show up in situations. And, there's been times when I've been having a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and, I'm not handling things all that well, mentally, emotionally. And I look at my habits and I say, well, I mean, I'm, all hopped up on caffeine. I'm on the edge. And so, my barrel is full because I'm not letting it out, because I'm just going so hard. And it's my fault. That's causing me not to be able to show up in the way that I want. Similarly with alcohol, if you're using it on a consistent basis and then trying to be, really clear and present and not have brain fog, for important conversations and tough situations and stressful things that come up in the course of life and business, then we've got to look at the source of what we're doing to prepare ourselves for those situations. And I just think that we've got to be more thoughtful there. And again, what really changed for me was when I started tracking sleep and foods, and just seeing again all of this objective data, how these things affect sleep, and then how that's affecting mood and behavior, and all of this, like, it is telling. And so just to take a hard look in the mirror, and sometimes the hardest person to lead is ourselves. But if we can't lead ourselves, we're not going to be very effective at leading others, because people are watching us and they see how we're treating ourselves, how we're treating others, how we're showing up in situations. And we've got to set the example as leaders in our business, in our homes and organizations. And if we're not setting ourselves up for success with some of these areas, then we're not going to get the results that we want. So couple other things that I noted here. One is just habits in general. And I think as entrepreneurs, we're prone to addictions. We're prone to vices, so I've talked about a few already. Of course, there's others that can come between us and success, come between us and the results and the fulfillment that we want. And a lot of, again, those habits come down to setting ourselves up for success. How are we leading ourselves? How are we, if we've got habits that aren't serving us well, how are we working to undo those and replace those habits with more productive habits that are going to serve us well, that are going to help us get the results in life that we want? So I could do a whole other conversation around habits, kind of beyond the scope. I'll probably come back to that one at some point here, but suffice it to say that, again, we've got to look at our habits, everything from how much we're interacting with our phone and technology, especially if we find that we're addicted to it and it's causing us to not have the relationships that we want, or not have the effectiveness in our business dealings that we want because we're distracted. That's a problem. If we're not able to handle those just things that come at us in a productive way, we've got to look at those and have some self-leadership around that. So last thing I had noted in terms of just improving our self-leadership, our self-care, is time blocking. And I think, again, this is something that as entrepreneurs, small business owners, we can really get off track. And it's so easy to allow the urgent to override the important. So if you've never heard of Stephen Covey's kind of urgent, important matrix, there's things that are important but not urgent. There's things that are urgent and important. There are things that are important but not urgent, and there's things that are neither urgent nor important. And we spend a lot of our time on things that are urgent but not important. That's probably the biggest hang up for us as entrepreneurs and people in general. I think this doesn't only apply to entrepreneurs, it applies to everyone, but we are so wrapped up, and especially in today's day and age, and just the distractions and things that come up. You get a text, you get an email, something rings, dings, notifications, you're responding to messages, things that aren't urgent, and they're taking you away from things that are important. Maybe that's something you need to spend some time doing, some deep thinking, strategy, or engaging with people in your business to make sure that you're leading well, to make sure you're going in the right direction and doing the right things, the big picture things to get you to your goals. Maybe you need to set some goals. Maybe you need to set some vision. And those are all things that are important, but they are not urgent. No one's going to come and chase you down if you don't have a great vision or if you don't have a great strategy, because it's not urgent, but it is super important, and your business needs that from you. Maybe you're allowing urgent things, again, rings and dings and all of that, to distract you from your important work in your home and parenting and being present for your spouse or partner. You've got to make sure that you're driving those things that are most important. You're putting those first things first. And a lot of that comes through time blocking in the field of business, where we say, if we say we've got to spend a day away, or we've got to spend the morning, or we've got to spend an hour even on this particular task or initiative in order to get it done, because it's really important, even if it may not be urgent, and not allow the urgent things that pop up to keep us from getting that really important thing done. And so time blocking, saying that from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Tuesday, I'm going to work on, writing this SOP, or coming up with a new strategy to overcome our sales issue that we're having, or outlining our marketing calendar for the next month. Whatever it is, if you can set that time block, honor it, and get it done, you're going to be so much more effective. And if we just sit down at our desk and respond to emails all day, you'll be busy with incredibly urgent things, I'm sure, that'll come up. But most of them will not be important. And we've got to make sure that as business owners, if we're really leading ourselves well, and then in turn leading our teams well, we've got to be able to set the example of being able to get the important things done, the things that really are going to move the needle. I have a friend that says, the difference that makes the difference. And so if we can do those things, then that's what's really going to move us forward. We can't just allow our days to happen to us. That's a recipe for stress and anxiety and frustration of not getting the things done that we know that we needed to get done, because we kept doing the urgent things and not the important things. So let me run through these one more time. Our tribe and community, investing there, finding people who energize you, that build into you, and that you can build into and really get energized from your time with them. Sleep, finding a way to get 7 to 9 hours of meaningful, good sleep, following the 3-2-1 rule, tracking your sleep, taking that step to really get objective data. Movement, spending time moving your body, strength training, walking, running, doing it for yourself. Also finding ways to have times with movement, with people close to you. Investing in mental and emotional growth, just having a growth mindset, believing that you always need to and always can be learning about yourself, your places where you've got blind spots, where you're not thriving, and also learning just about everything. The books you read, allowing those to change who you are and just becoming better in every area of your life, and finding that overflow that's going to just keep moving you forward. Focusing on food, following an 80-20 or 90-10 rule, recognizing that food is fuel, really watching what we're eating and how it affects our mood and energy. Caffeine and alcohol, making sure that we're having healthy relationships with those items. Start to really look at that, tracking how it affects you, and noticing what is making you show up differently than you really want to, and making those adjustments. Habits, making sure that we're not falling prey to the addictions and vices and unproductive behaviors that are holding us back from getting what we want. And then time blocking, making sure that we're really putting first things first. We are prioritizing and we're doing the important and not just the urgent, and really getting the results that we want. So I hope that this resonates with somebody. I hope that this helps you, makes a difference. And I want to leave you with this thought. I want you to go back to the why you're doing what you're doing. And a lot of us would say, if we've got a small business, if we're entrepreneurs, we're doing it because it was a dream of ours, and we're really excited about building something for our team, for our community. Maybe it's you're doing it as a legacy thing, or part of it is a legacy for your family. But we've just got to make sure that we are always keeping in view, if we're doing this to give ourselves fulfillment or time or family legacy, whether, that's wealth or work ethic or the other things that come out of that, we don't lose ourselves in the process by not being wise in how we're leading ourselves. And if we're not caring for ourselves, then we can't show up to be the best version of ourselves for our business or our family or the people that are close to us. And it's so easy to lose ourselves in life and business and just all of the things that are coming at us. But if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. All of this goes away. Maybe you've heard the saying that a person with their health has 1,000 wishes, and a person without their health has but one. And they want their health. And so we've got to make sure that we don't find ourselves in that place, and we are taking care of ourselves and we're taking care of our relationships. And so I'll leave you with that. Be thinking, what is your why? Are your actions aligning with your why and where you wanted to go when you set out on this thing? And if you're off track, spend a little time getting it right. And so I encourage you, you've got what it takes to do this. You can make it happen. These are changes. If I can make them, anyone can. And I just want to encourage you from the other side of investing time and some money, frankly, also in doing better for myself and my business and those around me by taking these things and putting them into action. I encourage you to do the same. So hopefully this has been helpful. Until next week, we'll have another meaningful conversation around Main Street, around development, around businesses, around just people that are doing the right things and moving the needle and learning from them. I hope that you're continuing to find inspiration, education through these different episodes that we're bringing. I'm always open to your feedback. Please give me that, and very much appreciate your positive reviews, your shares, and your comments. And I'll keep trying to bring helpful content to you and help all of us move forward. So thanks again for listening in. Hope to see you back here soon. Thanks for listening to the Main Street Reimagined podcast. To learn more about Main Street Reimagined, Henry Development Group, or our work in downtown Marion, Ohio, please visit mainstreetreimagined.com. If you want to connect, or if you know someone who we need to interview, shoot us an email at info@mainstreetreimagined.com. Until next time, keep dreaming and don't be afraid to take the leap.